Welcome back, friends, to Practical Healthy Living's On Topic. Today, we're very fortunate to have with us Michelle Reinglass. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Alan. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it. So I am a reformed lawyer turned mediator after having a long career as a lawyer. And I'm also an author, a co-author of one book, and I have my own book that is coming out soon. So I'm a pending author on that, and also a speaker. So that's a little summary. I also, because my book coming out is on balance, so somebody called me in one of my programs I was in, the Balance Girl. So I'll add that.
Before the show, we were talking, and it intrigued me that you were talking about the stress epidemic. Can you tell us what the stress epidemic is?
Yes, that is actually a word I coined, but I think it fits perfectly as this pandemic seems to be dissipating. Well, except for maybe the variants and things like that. But we've had this stress epidemic for much longer, and there's no vaccine for it. It's something that has been affecting everybody in droves. And what it's doing is it's been causing people to feel this, to experience stress in physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it's really right now in epic proportions. So that's why I call it a stress epidemic.
Tell me, Michelle, what led to your interest in the field of balance?
It was actually being imbalanced or unbalanced in my own life. And my whole family was very busy all the time. And so that was sort of an environment that felt natural to me. When you cross the threshold and become an unhealthy unbalance, I don't know that people necessarily recognize it as such. I certainly did not. I just knew it didn't feel right. And as a result, I kept trying to figure out ways to feel better. And so I started studying Louise Hay. She was my first guru in personal development book. She wrote on balance. And so I learned about meditation and affirmations and all sorts of, wonderful ideas from her, and thought that that was my magic key, but it still wasn't feeling like I was balanced. And it seemed like I just kept being busier and busier, and I didn't know where everything was coming from. And how did this happen to me? That's how we think about these things. So it was that plopped me onto the journey, which ultimately led to recognizing the need for people to be in balance. And so that was the beginning stages.
Okay, great. What are some simple steps that people can take to begin a new lifestyle in balance?
There are a number of things that people could do, and I'd like to recommend, for starters, the 4 M's. The most important thing about balance is there's a phrase that how you do one thing is how you do everything, or how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's pretty much a truism when you start looking at your life. If you're imbalanced, you're going to have imbalance in just about every part of your life. So it brings me back to, if I were to recommend things to get you completely unbalanced, in balance, you'd feel overwhelmed. And so, like with anything else, we've developed habits that have created the situation we're in now. And so it's not so much unlearning habits, it's learning different habits. And so I recommend them in bite-sized stages. So I have the 4 M's I like to recommend. So the first one is having the motivation to want to do something different. Like I was mentioning in my life, I knew I wasn't really happy. I was happy, I had joy, but I wasn't quite at ease. And I couldn't figure out why. So that was my motivation. I wanted to figure out, how do I get to that stage? I don't even know what I'm looking for, but you're motivated. The second one, which really is, in so many ways is really the first, but I think it needs to come second in this particular answer. And that's mindset. I always say everything starts and ends with mindset, because our mindset is everything, and it controls everything. And it basically, it's in control of our lives. It can be if we let it be. And most of the time we do. So getting into the right mindset, then what starts happening is you start learning to change your thoughts. You start learning to be aware of your thoughts. That's what I call conscious mindset. Being aware of how we're thinking about ourselves. How many times, it's too much to get into this, but I'll just dive into one part. I like to talk about rituals. But when you get up in the morning, and what are the first things you do? And I always start with gratitude. But what's another thing we do? A lot of people walk into the bathroom. They either have to go to the bathroom, or they're going to brush their teeth, or what are they going to do? They look in the mirror and we denigrate ourselves. most of the time. So those are negative thoughts that are actually impacting us, physically and mentally. And so the mindset is just so important. So being conscious of what your thoughts are is really important in terms of that. So we've got motivation, we've got mindset. Another way of clearing our minds. We have clutter in our heads. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of dust and cobwebs and all sorts of stuff like that. And so if we don't clear it out, there's no room for new ideas. There's no room for new thoughts. There's no room for anything. And so what happens is when there are ideas or there's things that we need to be thinking about, it's kind of squeezing itself into that head. And so that's where meditation comes in. And I know some people groan at the thought of it. They say, I tried it. I get, monkey mind and, I can't stop my thoughts. Well, welcome to the club, because that is everybody. Everybody has that kind of mind stuff going on. But the main thing is just getting still and setting aside actual time that is for you to be quiet. You don't have to speak it just because there's words going on in your head, but be mindful of, aware of what those words are. So we've got motivation, we've got mindset, we've got meditation, and then a fourth M is movement. Our bodies, our minds need to be moved. So every single day, it doesn't mean you have to go out and run a marathon or go, hiking or, do some major athletics. Any movement of your body is good to start. So for people who aren't used to exercise, I say start with really good stretching. And there's a number of things online, wonderful programs that teach you how to stretch and not get injured. Yes, people can injure themselves by the movements that they're making. So those are the four to get people started. And what I recommend is trying to stay on that path for at least 1 week. Try to do all four of those things. And if you mess up, it's okay. Give yourself grace, because everybody on the planet has messed up on that. So it would be like, just maybe as an incentive, what I like to do, and I have done this when I've sort of fallen off the wagon. For example, there's times I was too busy to meditate. And then once you miss a meditation, it's like, oh God, I'm too busy the next day. And all of a sudden I realize 4 days go by. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my mind. I'm feeling it in my head. So I'm going to now start a new a ritual. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start day 1 as if I was just starting over forever. So, and just kind of until you can get to 7 days, and then you can work on further goals. So that's a start.
Excellent. That's very good advice. Do you find that when you do get off track, it's as the result of some stressful situation that's come up and derails you?
It usually is. Everybody's schedule, that comes back to what I was just mentioning, is rituals. Our schedules are busy. Everyone's busy. We're much busier than we ever were, 10 years ago, and then maybe even more than 30 years ago, in different lifestyles. And while everybody says that all of these wonderful technologies and social media things are great conveniences, I think they have expanded and exploded our busyness to.
They have a dark side.
Absolutely, absolutely have a dark side. And so getting to that point, you just kind of go, I don't have time. Stop right there. And this is what all of us have to take stock of. There isn't an unguilty person that I know, unless they've never touched social media, unless they don't have a cell phone, unless they never watch TV. But what happens is, if people think about what they do for a day, just one day, they'd be shocked at how many hours we're scrolling through the phone, scrolling through your Facebook or your Instagram, gabbing on the phone. That's a good thing. But if you're doing that all day long, how much time is spent on watching television? Now, so that's the type of thing, is if in fact there is 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes found in any one of those things, you've got time to meditate. What's really happening is it's not being prioritized. And the reason it's not being prioritized is because it's not something that's ingrained in you yet. And you don't really know what the benefits are. I just got started on this. It's after you start doing it, and then when you miss a day, you'll feel it. And I feel it's kind of like being bloated, because I'll notice that I'm less creative. I'm stuck kind of in a wheel of thoughts, meaning I might be ruminating more on something that wasn't as pleasant as I would have liked it to be, instead of, okay, move on. You messed up, move on. No, I'm ruminating on it. Now I want to persist on it. Nothing good's coming into my head. It doesn't have space because I'm clouded up there. So that's why I recommend at least a week. It takes longer than that to develop a habit. I'm not saying develop a habit yet. I'm just saying try to get into a flow and see how that works.
You know, we have to pause here for a break, but we'll be right back with Michelle Reinglass. Please stand by. Welcome back, friends. We're returning here to speak to Michelle Reinglass. Michelle, tell me about the two books that you're currently involved with.
Thank you, Alan. I actually have a book that is birthing soon, and that is my book on balance. But before I get into that, before it was even close to finishing, I was invited to be a co-author with a total of 30 women authors in a book called Women Who Empower. So with that,
what an honor.
I felt very honored by it. And somebody I had met in another program who had, she had a #1 bestseller. And I said, how did you do that? And she told me about this book group, and Kate Butler is the publisher. And Kate has, she's a publisher for all types of books, but one of her niches is collaborative books. So anyway, I got to be part of that group. Actually, I didn't even know what the title was when I initially was like, oh my God, I don't have time. I work full time as a mediator. I'm writing this balance book. How can I dedicate more time, to another book? And then I started thinking, that is the silliest thinking you've ever had. And I have an opportunity to actually get another one done. And it was going to publish before mine would. And we each got to do a chapter. And I would learn some more about the book writing and the publishing process, which would only help me with my books. I thought, I'll just go ahead and do this. And it was the best thing I've ever done.
Before we talk about your book, can you tell us where could someone find Women Who Empower?
Thank you for asking. It is on Amazon. And we have the original book, which Kate Butler has published in, but I was one of the featured authors. As a result, I have one that has my own personalized cover on it. And if you just put in at Amazon, Women Who Empower, Michelle Reinglass, that will bring it right up.
Tell me about the book that you're writing solo.
So after attending 2 conferences a year for a bunch of organizations, that was the year I decided I'm going to take a break this fall. So I'm not attending the mediation conference. It was going to be in Austin, Texas. I'd never been there and I'd heard it was cool, but I thought I'm going to just take care of me. And I get an email from one of the members of the group who said, hey, Michelle, are you coming to Austin? We want you to speak. And I wrote back, oh, thank you so much. I'm honored, but I'm not going this year. Now you would think that's the end of that. They wrote back, well, we still think that you need to reconsider. That was it. And we still think that you should be speaking at this program. So I said, well, I really, thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one. And then I got a third one. And this was joined by two of the members. And finally I had to say, what is the topic? And they said, balance. And if I was sitting on a chair, I would have fallen off it, but I about fell off. I said, have you met me? That was my response. You guys, I am so imbalanced. How could you even possibly want me to talk about balance? And they said, well, we disagree and we think you're the perfect person to do it. So I said, let me think about it for at least overnight, because that's one of the things I always do. I just say, sure, I'll do it. And so it's learning. So I'm going to do this, get on my hair, trying to, please people. And I decided to do my own balanced version of it. And in doing that, I was going up late the night before, and I was going to come back a day early. So that was my giving myself a little break. So it turns out it was a breakout session. And we have about 150, I'm guessing, people that were there. And so they would have 8 to 10 of these breakout sessions, and people can attend however many they want, but so we were doing that. We also had to repeat it in the afternoons. We did one in the morning and repeated in the afternoon. So we were stunned at the high number of people that were there in our program. And in fact, we had pulled a few tables together and chairs, and we had to just keep branching out, and we had people from all over the world. I learned some things from 2 women, some fabulous women from India. And in fact, I'm incorporating that into the book. And so anyway, it was just we all had a great time, and the program went really well. Then when we went to the afternoon one, we thought for sure that'll be a smaller crowd. It was another large crowd. So I started realizing there's a lot of people who need balance. Oh my goodness. Still nothing came into my head as like an idea or anything, but people started saying, remember I told you I'm leaving early. So I'm like, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And people are saying, you have to write a book. I'm like, you're so funny, you guys. And, but the universe had other ideas. So I get back to my town, and I'm immediately contacted by someone local, said, hey, I heard you did this balance program in Austin, Texas. Would you do it for us? I said, who'd you hear that from? Oh, a little birdie, so I said, sure. So I did it for that program, and we had a lot of fun. Because it was my local bar association, I was able to have some fun. And I went to a store I know that has these painted rocks. So I got rocks that have balance and different words on it, peace, calm. So I brought up rocks for everybody in the group. So I thought, okay, that was fun, and I'm done. Then I got asked to speak for a federal court. I went, okay, sure. That was a little more stodgy and a little more everybody in suits. And in fact, when I have people stand up to join in things, they're like, really? We have to do stuff? So it's a different crowd.
Balance if it pleases the court.
Please, exactly. So, and then I was asked by someone else. And so it just sort of mushroomed. And simultaneously, as I'd go out on my runs or walks, I started listening to podcasts. My sister got me into that, listening to those. Thank you, Beth, if you're listening to this. And one of the podcasts, all of a sudden they start talking about balance, and they started talking about different facets of balance. So I I literally stopped, pulled over, if you will, and started dictating some of those into my notes, program. I don't know what I was going to do with it. Something made me think, okay, they're talking about balance. I probably should, in case I'm speaking again on this.
Do you have a website that people could go to so that they could keep track of or be notified when it's completed and published?
Yes, I appreciate you asking that. First, I'll tell you what my website is. It's www.reinglass, REINGLASS, ADR.com. It's in revamp mode, so it still has everything in it. But when you come in, there is a place you can put your name and your email address, and then we will notify you. This gives you 2 things. We will we'll notify you when the book is ready to launch. And if people want to be part of the launch party and the launch team, I'll be soliciting those. But also just to get notified about the status of the book. And we have a free giveaway. I have 2 meditations. My dear friend, Janet Whitney, who's a psychologist also, and my long time running friend, she created these meditations for me. So one is called Power, for the women who empower. It doesn't have to be just for that book. And she created one on balance. So we have for my balance book. So people can download those for free. So just putting in their name and their email address, and then we will put them on a list just to notify about the book. And if they're interested in knowing more when it's ready, I'd love it. If they're not, I'm not offended.
Well, that's fabulous.
The title of my balance book is How to Break Free from Addiction to Busy. So,
what an appropriate title for these days.
Yep, that was it was eye-opening when I finally realized what the underpinnings were of my being out of balance. It only took me 2 autoimmune conditions and a green smoothie spill, slip and fall, concussion to wake me up that all the things I was doing were not enough, because I kept carrying my same baggage with me everywhere I went. I transformed from being a lawyer to a mediator, telling everybody I have plenty of time now for everybody. and couldn't figure
Yeah.
out why I not have time. Why am I so busy?
Did those events happen before or after people were asking you to do things on balance?
I would say those are things that have been happening probably my whole life, and or at least my adult life. And as I said, we were a busy household with my family. We just all had tasks all the time. But I guess more to the point was I became a lawyer, started realizing we were very much disrespected by a number of people, shall we say. Women were not recognized. We were small in numbers. And like you could literally be in a meeting and be, let's say there's 2 women in the room or 1 woman in the room, and you try to participate, you definitely not get called on, but if you manage to get some words out, no one's listening to you. So, and by the way, I still to this day, I'll be on, in different rooms, for example, on Clubhouse, and I'll be hearing these strong women MDs, women lawyers, women professionals, busy professionals. The same thing is still going on today. And that when I was my first experience in this was decades ago. So you think we've evolved, and we have evolved. I don't mean to make it say like it's the same thing as it was when I first went into practice, but so the few women friends that I was able to find and put into my club, so to speak, at least we had people we could sit and go, tell me about your experiences. Yeah, tell me about your experiences. And then we went from 2 to 4 to 8 to 10. But we all there was a common feeling was we had to be more, we had to do more, we had to always do better. So whereas there were people who'd walk into court and, again, by the way, I don't mean to demean any gender, sex, or whatever, but men could get away with, I forgot to send that to you, Judge. I'll get that over to you. But a woman would be frowned on, and it was like you felt it. You felt like, okay, she's a woman. So I think we all sort of felt we were part of. We had to take one for the other, so to speak. So it's not just doing it for your own respect, it's doing it for the respect of all women. And that's how we felt. And I realized my piling on for myself, at least, piling all those things on created this burden, this overload that I was carrying. So I can actually visualize baggage, carrying with me from life to life, from being a lawyer to a mediator. And why am I doing this? And I realized how long it took me a while to accept this, because I don't think any of us ever like to accept our dark sides. But it took me a while to realize I was pretty much masking myself, and under this busyness, I'm busy, so therefore I'm productive, and therefore I'm successful, or so masking behind what appears to be a put together, have it together person, feeling completely like I'm twirling plates all the time. So
isn't it interesting how God or the universe conspires for the person who needs to know about balance, knowing that the best way to teach you balance is to have you teach others balance?
So exactly true. And I can't remember, I just read this recently. It was a statement that somebody said that people end up learning about themselves, and that's what makes them right. So, or they have a need to learn about themselves, and that's what makes them right. I'm thinking, kind of interesting. And then another phrase I'd read a long time ago was people write about the things they need to learn.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. We've run out of time here, but we'd like to have you come back when your book is published, and perhaps we can talk some more, carry this discussion on further.
Oh, you're so kind. I'd love to. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your show. So thank you.